Hello again. Welcome to class number 84. All right. Oh, vamos bien, eh? Class number 84, Unit 11, page 108.9, page 109.10. Maybe. Yes, a little bit. All right. To have lunch. What time do you have lunch every day? What time do you have breakfast? Ask me. Yes. Richard. Yes. Question. Ask me a question. What time do you have lunch every day? Well, it depends. Usually, I have lunch at 2 o'clock. I usually have lunch at 2 o'clock. Antes o justo después del sujeto. Usually, I have lunch at 2 o'clock, pero casi recomiendo lo segundo. I usually have lunch at 2 o'clock. More questions. Come on. Richard, yes. What time do you have breakfast? I have breakfast at 5:45 every day. 5:45 in the morning. Wow. That's early. Yes. Ask me what time I have lunch on Saturday and Sunday. Richard, what time do you have lunch on Saturday and Sunday? I usually have lunch at 12:30 on Saturday and Sunday. Oh, yes. I usually have lunch at 12:30. During the week, I usually have lunch at 2 o'clock. But on the weekend, o los británicos, at the weekend, on the weekend, I usually have lunch early at 12:30. Ask me what time I have breakfast on Saturday and Sunday. Richard, yes? What time do you have breakfast on Saturday and Sunday? I usually have breakfast around 8 o'clock, but only a coffee. I only have a coffee. I don't eat anything. I don't have toast. I don't have eggs. Ask me what I have for breakfast. Ask me what I have for breakfast during the week. Richard, yes? What do you have for breakfast? What do you have for breakfast during the week? During the week, I usually have eggs, 2 fried eggs for breakfast. Sometimes one fried egg, and sometimes 2 fried eggs. Sometimes one, and other times 2 fried eggs. And a coffee. Okay. 2 fried eggs and a coffee for breakfast. Ask me what time I have dinner. Richard, yes. What time do you have dinner every evening or every night? I usually have dinner at 9 o'clock. Do you have a big dinner or a light dinner? A heavy dinner or a light dinner? I usually have a light dinner. And what do you drink for lunch? I usually drink wine for lunch. And what do you drink for dinner? I usually drink water for dinner. And what do you drink for breakfast? I always, usually nada, I always drink coffee for breakfast. And what time do you have breakfast? I said, during the week, I have breakfast at 5:45. And on the weekend, I usually have breakfast around 8 o'clock. And Natasha Zarakovich, what time does she have breakfast? Natasha, excuse me? What time does she have breakfast? She has breakfast at 7 o'clock. Wow, early, yeah. Why does she have breakfast at 7 o'clock? Because she goes to work at 7:30. Oh. And what does she have for breakfast? I think she has a cup of tea only. Yeah, she has a cup of tea and a piece of toast. Una tostada. Un trozo de pan tostado, decimos. A piece, piece. She has a cup of tea and a piece of toast with butter only. Yeah, excuse me, what time does she have breakfast? She has breakfast at 7. What time does she have lunch? She has lunch at 12 noon. Well, No, she has lunch at 12:15. She leaves the office. She leaves the laboratory. You remember, laboratorio. She leaves the laboratory at 12 o'clock, and she goes home to have lunch with her mother. She gets home at 12:15. It's only 3 subway stops. Do you remember? Huh? Do you remember? It's only 3 subway stops. She has lunch. She gets home at 12:15. And her mother, has lunch ready for her. So she has lunch with her mother at 12:15. And what does she have for lunch? I don't know. And what time does she have dinner? She has dinner around 8 o'clock. And what time does she have breakfast? She has breakfast at 7. And what does she have for dinner? I don't know. What does she have for breakfast? She has a piece of toast and a cup of tea. All right. And Pierre Monet? What time does he have breakfast? He has breakfast at 6:30. Wow, very early. Why does he have breakfast? Why does he? Why does he? Why does he? Does he, does he, does he, does he, does he? Pero tú dices, does he. Aspírame la H. Los nativos nos la comemos. Does he? Pero si emulas lo que hacemos nosotros, a veces sale mal. What time does he? Suena perfectamente bien. Suena mejor, incluso. What time does he have breakfast? Why does he have breakfast at 6:30? He has breakfast at 6:30. Breakfast. Claro, break, como dije ayer. Break fast. Romper ayuno. Se toma el rompeayunos, o sea, el desayuno. Pero la pronunciación se ha deformado a lo largo de los siglos por tanto uso. Breakfast. Como el Brexit. Breakfast. Fast. It's fast. Fast is ayuno. Breakfast. Why does he have breakfast at 6:30? Because he leaves home at 7. Why does he leave home at 7? Because he starts work at 8, and it takes him almost an hour to get to the ministry. ¿Te acuerdas del Ministerio de Asuntos Exteriores? The foreign ministry. So he has breakfast at 6:30. What time does he have lunch? He has lunch at 12. Where does he have lunch? He has lunch at his desk. ¿Cómo? At his desk. En su mesa de trabajo. Yes. Desk, escritorio, pupitre también. Desk es pupitre, escritorio, mesa de trabajo. Si es en un colegio, pupitre. He has lunch at his desk. Oh. And what does he have for lunch? Normally a sandwich. He usually has a sandwich. And what time does he have dinner? He has dinner around 6 o'clock. He has dinner around 6 o'clock. And Denise Johnson in Nebraska, what time does she have breakfast? She has breakfast at 8 o'clock. What time does she have lunch? She has lunch at 12. Where does she have lunch? She has lunch in the school cafeteria. Who does she have lunch with? ¿Quién almuerza con? Yes, así en inglés. Preposición al final. Who does she have lunch with? She has lunch with her 2 friends, Jenny and Pamela. Do you remember? No, I don't remember. Yes, she has lunch with her 2 best friends, Jenny and Pamela. Okay, to have lunch, to have dinner, to have a drink. Richard, yes. Do you have a drink after, do you have a cognac or a brandy after lunch? No, I don't have a brandy after lunch. Do you have a brandy after dinner? No, I don't have a brandy after dinner. Do you have a nightcap before going to bed? Excuse me? Do you have a nightcap? Un gorro para dormir. Nightcap? Yes. ¿Que si duermo con un gorro? ¿O gorra de dormir? No. Ah, nightcap. Todo junto, ¿no? Noche, gorro. Nightcap. No, I don't have a nightcap. Nightcap es una última copa antes de dormir. En el año 56 había una película con Frank Sinatra y Grace Kelly y Bing Crosby. Y Bing Crosby pregunta a Frank Sinatra, ya de noche, en el doblaje en español, ¿quieres un gorro para dormir? Y Frank Sinatra dice, no, vamos a la cama. Y supongo que el público español dice, ¿y por qué le preguntó por un gorro de dormir? Claro, es una última copa. Nightcap, para tapar la noche, o sea, para el último tapón, para cerrar el día, y ya para la noche te tomas un benedictino o cualquier cosa. The nightcap. So the question is, Richard, do you have a nightcap? Claro, aquí estoy con el verbo to have. To have es tomar. Comidas, bebidas. La única vez que usamos take para tomar es cuando es ingerir medicamentos. To take an aspirin. To take medicine. To take medication. To take a syrup, un jarabe, sirope, o sea, jarabe. To take. Otherwise, de otra forma, de otro modo, si no, otherwise, if not, to have. To have breakfast, to have lunch, to have dinner. Y siempre do you have. Does he have? Did you have? Si es pasado, lo veremos más adelante. Will you have? Futuro. ¿Dónde comerás mañana? Where will you have lunch tomorrow? Ahora bien, have you got? Lo he mencionado antes. Tengo dos lápices en la mano izquierda. I have two pencils. I have two pencils in my left hand. Alternativa. I've got. I've es contracción de I have. Pero en este caso es un verbo auxiliar. I've got. Es que el verbo to have, sabrás que significa tener. Pero también significa haber. He comido, he visto, he venido, he intentado, I have. Eso lo veremos un poco más adelante. Ahora tengo dos lápices en la mano izquierda. Dos formas. Para posesión o tenencia, I have two pencils in my left hand. Alternativa super corriente. I've got two pencils in my left hand. 50-50 se usa intercambiablemente. Ahora bien, nosotros enseñamos aquí I have, not I've got. Aunque nada más salir del aula decimos I've got, la mitad de las veces o más a veces. Y la pregunta es have you got? Have you got? Y el negativo es I haven't got. So question, Richard, have you got any pencils in your left hand? Yes, I've got two pencils in my left hand. Question, Richard, have you got any pencils in your right hand? No, I haven't got any pencils in my right hand. Pero no lo enseñamos. Porque es una forma irregular del verbo tener. Curiosa forma. Pero con do you have, como todos los demás verbos, do you sleep, do you speak, do you know, do you like, do you have, se usa el 50% del tiempo. Así que, Richard, yes, do you have any pencils in your left hand? Yes, I do. I have two pencils. Do you have any pencils in your right hand? No, I don't have any pencils. Entonces preferimos en Vaughan, en el método, preferimos enseñar to have, como todos los demás verbos. Do you have, do you like, do you see, do you know, do you speak, etc. Do you have. Pero ojo, have you got, lo vas a usar 1000 veces, lo vas a oír 1,000,000 de veces. Pero have you got, repito, lo oirás 1,000,000 de veces, pero solo en el presente y solo sobre tenencia o más o menos. Porque cuando hablamos de las comidas, desayunar, comer, cenar, to have lunch, to have dinner, to have a drink. No puedes usar have you got. Fuera. Y cuando pasamos al pasado, al futuro, o al presente perfecto, no podemos usar have got. Have got is only in the present tense y solo para ciertos usos. Pero repito, lo vas a oír mil veces. So, I don't have a nightcap before going to bed. But Richard, do you have a whiskey when you get home? No, I don't have a whiskey when I get home. I don't drink alcohol except wine and beer. So I don't have a whiskey. I don't have a gin and tonic. En inglés se dice ginebra. Gin tonic, no se dice gin and tonic. I don't have a gin and tonic. I don't have a shot of vodka. Bam. I don't have any drinks when I get home. I don't. All right. So to have lunch, to have dinner. What time do you have lunch? What time does she have lunch, etc., etc. To have lunch, to have breakfast, to have dinner, también, repito, como ayer, to have supper. Supper, supper, supper. All right. Time adverbs. Page 109.10. Unit 11. Time adverbs. Adverbios de tiempo. También se dice frequency. Adverbs. Adverbios de frecuencia. Muy fácil. Always. I always get up in the morning. Se me levanto por la mañana, siempre por la mañana. I always get up in the morning. I almost always get up before 8 o'clock. Casi siempre. Siempre no, pero casi, casi. Ahora, siempre me levanto por la mañana, no me levanto después del mediodía. I always, L es simple, no doble L, ¿eh? Always. Fíjate en la pronunciación. No es always, no. All, como todo, o todos. Always. I always get up in the morning. Ahora, I almost always get up before 8 o'clock. 95%. 95%. Always, 100%. Almost always, 95%. En ambos casos lo inserto entre el sujeto y el verbo. I always get up in the morning. She always gets up. She always gets up. Ahora bien, si uso el verbo to be, I am, you are, he is, she is, etc. Va después. Estoy siempre cansado. I am always tired. Siempre estoy aquí para ti. I am always here for you. Marta siempre está estornudando. Marta is always sneezing. No es verdad. Yes. Marta siempre está aquí para mí. She is always here for me. Siempre te estás quejando. You are always complaining. All right. Pero vamos, cuando es conjugación con el presente habitual, I go, I come, I sleep, I have breakfast, I almost always, 100%. Almost always, 98%, 95%. Usually, generally, and normally. Esos tres. También en español. Usualmente, generalmente, normalmente. Se dice más aquí. Es que en español tenéis la curiosa palabra suele. Suelo levantarme antes de las 8. Okay. I usually. No tenemos el verbo soler. Además es un verbo raro. Yo suelo llegar aquí antes que los demás. Okay. I usually get here before the rest. El resto de la gente. Before the rest. I usually get here. I generally. Se usa usually. Normally también. Si te cuesta menos decir normally. Normalmente llego aquí antes que los demás. Normally, fantástico. Usa normally. Si te cuesta decir usually, pues salta normally. I normally come here before the rest. I usually get here. The usually diría 80% de las veces, más o menos. Usually. Frecuencia, a ver si frecuencia. ¿Qué frecuencia? Pues el 80% de las veces llego aquí sobre las 7:22. Toma. 7:22. Yes. I have a radio show every morning at 7:30. And I usually get here. Well, no. I usually go into the studio, the radio studio, at 7:22. Because I open the door to the radio studio, and I walk into the studio, and the first thing I do is to look at the clock. 7:22. Usually. So I usually get here. I usually get to the studio. To this room, no, to the radio studio. This is a television studio. It's not a radio studio. But near here, cerca de aquí, near here, there is a radio studio. And every morning, during the week, on the weekend, no, normally, usually, generally, but during the week, every day, every morning, I get there. Here, no, I get there at 7:22. Usually. Not always, but usually. Always, almost always, usually, normally, often, a menudo, often, frecuentemente, often. Hay una T en medio. Normalmente muda, ojo, pero es curioso. Often es a menudo, repito. Se escribe often. Y esa T, el 30% de los angloparlantes lo dicen, lo pronuncian, often. Entonces, vas a oír las dos cosas, often y often. Yo creo que la T, como T muda, es la forma correcta. Es curioso porque si añades una S delante de often, tienes la palabra soften. Y eso es suavizar o ablandar. Suavizante de ropa, softener. Soften. Y la T es súper muda siempre. Entonces, si quieres gastar una broma a un angloparlante que dice often, y dice, ¿por qué la T? Porque es así. Ponle un S delante y dicen soften y luego se autocorrigen. No, soften. ¿Con qué frecuencia suavizas tu ropa? How often do you soften your clothes? Yo pronuncio clothes, ropa, como cerrar la puerta. Igual. Un purista diría, no, el Vaughan ese, no lo escuches, es clothes. Y tiene razón, el purista. Pero yo muchos años viviendo con éxito en mi vida diciendo clothes, sin problemas. Y es fácil decir clothes, no es fácil decir clothes. It's difficult. Entonces, yo recomiendo que me hagas caso a mí y digas clothes. My clothes. Fabric softener, to soften. How often do you soften your clothes? I soften my clothes every day. Sin falta. Every day, okay. Often es a menudo. 50%, 60%, bueno, depende. Hay mucho baile ahí. How often? Often. Voy ahí a menudo. ¿Qué significa eso? ¿El 50% de los días? ¿O el 30%? Often. It's very general. How often? Sometimes, 20%, 30%, sometimes. Y te permito decir sometimes si me prometes cerrar la boca con las M's. Sometimes. Y no decir tiempos de sol. Sometimes, no, sometimes. Occasionally means de vez en cuando. Occasionally. Occasion. Escucha esto. Voy a decir la palabra ocasión. No ocasionalmente. Occasion. Occasion. A pencil. A book. A table. Occasion. Ocasión. La primera O suena una A. A pencil. A finger. A table. Occasion. Occasionally. Occasionally. 10% tal vez. No lo sé. 5%. Seldom. Pocas veces. Bastante raramente. Hardly ever. Casi nunca, casi nunca. 2% quizás. 2%. And never. 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 Never, 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 never. Nunca, jamás. Never, never land. La tierra de nunca, jamás. De Peter Pan. You remember Peter Pan living in Never, Never Land. En inglés, nunca, nunca. O jamás, jamás. Me gusta más en español. La tierra de nunca, jamás. See you in the next class. Okay? And study English. Bye-bye.